Your employer knows documentation is powerful. That's why they hope you never do it. Today, I'm breaking down 6 specific things your employer doesn't want you to document. Because if you do, it makes it so much harder for them to fire you quietly or retaliate against you or to win in court. Now, I made another video about how you can learn to document like a pro, and you should watch it because it explains what you should document, how you should go about documenting, and where to keep it. So make sure you check that out. Documenting is so important because, let's just be clear, it's evidence. I don't know if people really appreciate that, but when you write down something as it's taking place, that constitutes evidence in court. So it's a really big deal. So let's talk about those 6 things that they don't want you to document. Let's start with number 6, which is retaliation emails. So if you've complained about discrimination, harassment, or unfair treatment, pay attention to how quickly things shift. You find out really where you stand at that point. If you get emails changing your schedule, criticizing your work, or documenting small mistakes, you need to save them because that's part of a pattern. That's them getting back at you for complaining. Retaliation is the number 1 claim with the EEOC. Employers don't want you connecting the dots when you, after your complaint and their sudden hostility come together. They don't think you're smart enough to connect that. But, really, it's kind of hard to miss. So when you start feeling this really bad treatment after you've complained, after you have put a spotlight on your employer's bad conduct, or I should say illegal conduct, this is what happens next. It happens often, and that's why retaliation is one of the top complaints at the EEOC. Number 5, meeting notes with managers and HR. When you leave a meeting, write down what was said, especially if you complained about something protected by law. HR may log the meeting as just an informal chat and act like it never happened. But your notes, which you are going to make sure you date and make sure they're very specific, can prove otherwise. Because if you don't write it down, like I tell people all the time, they are free to misremember or to think you said this, or, oh, I didn't know that's what you meant. That's what they do. Write it down, and then there can be very little dispute, very little disagreement. Number 4, they don't want you documenting shifts in performance reviews. So in other words, you have been a top performer, you've had no problems, and all of a sudden, things change. One of the sneakiest tricks in the books is using performance reviews against you. It's like, what happened with that? You can be rated exceeds expectations 1 year, then suddenly tank after filing a complaint. Employers hope you won't keep copies of your reviews because side by side, the comparisons tell a real story. And boy, I tell you, I have seen my share of that. It's like, what happened? A lot of times people call me. Most of the time they've already been fired by the time they contact me. And I'll ask them, what changed? Especially if they've been with a company for a really long time. That's one of the first things I look at. So if they've been with a company a really long time and they've not had any problems, and then there's this sudden change, I'll just tell them, walk me through everything that's happened. And almost always, it's a new manager came in and they complained about something, or the employee, there's no change in management, but the employee complained about something, and all of a sudden things go south. So timelines are really important, and documenting everything is really important. Number 3, they don't want you documenting evidence of favoritism or discrimination. Now, document who gets promoted, who gets disciplined, who gets away with breaking the rules. Selective enforcement is a big red flag. If you can show patterns like older workers being targeted or certain people always being protected, it's powerful evidence employers don't want to see in court. And I have explained a number of times that favoritism in and of itself is not illegal unless all the favorites start to look the same age, same race, same gender, and it happens to be different from what you are. Then maybe we're looking at something more than just favoritism. So let's go to number 2, which is time records showing unpaid work. So that's not discrimination, but it's still a violation of the law. It violates wage and hour laws. And I do a lot of wage and hour claims. And let me tell you, if an employee complains about not being paid properly, a lot of times they'll come back and start cutting their hours or doing all sorts of things. So this is one of those things. This one hits their wallet. Employers don't want you to track your actual work hours, especially unpaid overtime, or skip breaks or off the clock emails. Wage theft is one of the biggest ways companies cheat employees, and your own notes or screenshots can expose it. Especially, employers just asking for trouble if you are an hourly employee and you don't clock in. So you really need to make sure you keep up with everything. You are documenting everything. Don't count on them to keep it for you. And the other thing that I want you to keep up with is the final one, witness names and contact information. This is one of the most important things. Employers hope you never write down who was in the room, who overheard the conversation, or who saw what happened. By the time a case makes it to court, coworkers may be gone, forgetful, or just scared to speak. Having those names and details in writing makes all the difference. I'm always asking clients when they come to me, who are your witnesses? And they'll say, well, I knew this one girl, she went through the same thing. She doesn't work there anymore, and they don't know how to reach her. Let me tell you, get that information and keep it. Here's the truth. Your employer hopes you don't document retaliation, meetings, performance reviews, favoritism, or unpaid hours. Don't give them the advantage. Protect yourself. Document everything and play the long game. They take care of each other, and so it's up to you to make sure that you are doing everything you can to protect yourself. And let me tell you, if your case ever gets to court, most cases settle without going to court. But sometimes, and I have had to try several employment cases, probably most than many or more than many employment lawyers. But let me tell you, most people in the jury are sympathetic to employment cases because the people on the jury happen to be employees also. So that's one of the reasons that companies settle cases before they make it to trial. But there's a lot that goes into it. But in any event, if you get to trial, then you're going to have to present evidence. And the company has all the documentation. They have personnel files. They're always documenting you. And so they look really good because they come up with all this paperwork to support whatever it is that they have to say. But, and that makes sense. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way. You can also present evidence. You can also present documentation. And you can also even present witnesses. That's all up to you. And you have to think about that from day one. And it is hard to get people to testify on your behalf if they still work there. And, you get it. That makes sense. They're not trying to jam you up. They're just trying to make sure that they don't lose their job. And you can't really hate them for that. But what about those people who no longer work there? If you do, like I said, and make sure you take down that information, then you can contact those people and they'll testify for you. See you next shift.